right, it is November 23rd, Wednesday, about 9 o'clock, and I am out here on an in-season scouting mission out on the Shane farm. We'll see. I brought my my 70 to 200 lens. I'm gonna take some pictures. I'm planning on just enjoying some outdoors today, getting some scouting in, as well as glimmer of hope. Maybe I'll find that big buck. I don't know. We'll see. Alright, so I am up on top of this hill, and it kind of gets pretty thick and gnarly back in here, and then kind of starts to go into this kind of draw almost. This kind of draw, and this is where all the oaks were when I came up in here looking for that big buck. And then this is right here, and I remember seeing this rub, but the interesting thing is that it's much more rubbed out than the last time I was in here. It's definitely continuing to be hit, and I've got a real nice scrape. Back over here. I'm not sure how I'm going to position cameras up here because I only have two. There's a fence line that runs over here, and a spot where they tend to cross, but I just need to do more scouting to figure out how I want to run my cameras up here. I kind of want to put one up over on that scrape because there's a pretty hard beaten trail, but there's a hard beaten trail coming down in here that would avoid that scrape up there. So I have a tendency to think that the bucks are going to be using this more than that, but here in a couple weeks, or actually next week probably, I'll bring in a couple buckets of mineral and set them up here where those cameras are, because those does will need the mineral and those bucks should hit that mineral, and I can get a good idea as to what made it through the season. Part of me is looking for that big buck that I shot and seeing if he made it through the season, which I just don't know. So I'm gonna keep scouting and we'll figure this out. And so I got up into this opening, and as I come around the corner from the draw behind me and around this tree, I look down and I spot that. I've never found a good shed. This is still an old shed, so I mean, you define whether it's good or not, but ton of mass, super narrow, but that's a really, I'm super pumped about finding that. I've never found a good shed before in my life, so can't complain about that. All right, so I just got my trail camera hung. Scrape is over here. Scrape over here. That it's sitting over, and this is kind of like a little travel spot that they come through and work up the ridge or up the hill. This has been a super successful trip. I've found my first shed, my first real big shed. I've found one little shed before, but it's old, but I don't care. I also found a spot that, as long as it's if it's property I can hunt, that I'm going to, I mean, it looks primo. It looks like a big intersection, basically, where when they're coming off this ridge and crossing the creek or coming up this ridge, they'll be in there. And so it looks great. Rubs, scrapes, trails, I mean, trails everywhere. Deer track, deer sign everywhere. Looks primo. All in all, super successful trip. Looking forward to hunting this spot next year.